Okay, here's a question from the Nat5 Biology exam 2022. This is question 3 in section 2, one of the long answer questions. So let's have a look. An investigation was carried out into the breakdown of cooked egg white by enzymes. 2 grams of cooked egg white was placed in each of 4 test tubes containing different enzyme solutions at different pH levels as shown. So let's have a look. We have tube A is pepsin at pH 2, tube B is pepsin at pH 7. These are the enzymes. Tube C is catalase at pH 2, and tube D is catalase at pH 7. All right, good. So far, so good. We've got our 2 grams of egg white placed in each of these tubes and the same amount of solution. All right, presumably the enzymes all at the same concentration. Right, the test tubes were placed in a water bath for 37 degrees, at 37 degrees for 2 hours. The cooked egg white was then removed and weighed. The results are shown in the table. Okay, let's have a look at the table now. This is a little complicated. Let's have a look. Test tube A, mass after 2 hours. So this is the end mass. We started with 2 grams, remember, up here. So this is the end mass. So 0.3. There's a gap here, and that's an 85% change in mass. 1.9, and that's a 0.1 change, right? So 2 grams up here. The change in mass, if it went to 1.9, is a change of 0.1 mass. Okay, so they're not using a negative here. It's decreased by 0.1, but they're just saying it's a change in mass. So change, not negative or positive, and that's a 5% change. In tube C, there's been no change in the mass. It started at 2. And it's finished at 2, so 0, 0, and 0, 0 for tube D. Okay. Complete the table by calculating the change in mass of the egg white in test tube A. Right. Now, you've got to be careful here because the thing you might do is think that you have to calculate a percentage change in mass using this as your starting value, or as your, and then try and calculate the change value, but it's not that. You're just subtracting this number here from your starting mass. Okay, so the starting mass was equaled 2 grams. End mass equals 0.3. So you're really just, it's 2 minus 0.3, 2.0 minus 0.3 is going to give you 1.7, right? So it has changed in mass by 1.7 grams, 1.7. We put that into the table and we'll get the mark. Okay? B, 1. Explain why the change in mass in test tube B was less than in test tube A. Well, let's go and have a look and see. We looked at these. So in test tube A, we got a change in mass of 1.7. In test tube B, we got a change in mass of 0.1. All right, let's look at the difference. The difference between these 2 test tubes is that here we had pepsin at pH 2, and here we had pepsin at pH 7. So the only difference between these 2 tubes, the same amount of egg white in both, the only difference between these 2 tubes is the pH. All right? So we can say that pepsin is at least most active between these 2 pHs. It's much more active at pH 2 than it is at pH 7, right? It's definitely an enzyme that breaks down egg white because it did it. So what we're going to say is that pepsin, or you could say the enzyme, but pepsin is less active at pH 7 than at pH 2. Have we answered the question? I mean, pH 2 might be the optimum temperature, but you're pushing your luck to say that from just 2 pHs. So you're definitely just saying that it's less active at pH 7 than at pH 2. Therefore, we get a greater change in mass. Explain why there was no change in mass in test tubes C and D. Well, let's have a look at these 2. So C and D used a different enzyme. They've got the enzyme catalase, and it didn't matter which pH we did it at, there was 0 change. So what does this mean? Well, it means that the catalase, the egg white is not a substrate for the catalase enzyme, all right? Or that the egg white is not specific to the active site of the catalase enzyme, and therefore there was no effect. You could say something like that. So why was there no change? Egg white not a specific substrate for the catalase active site. Now I think you've covered everything there. You might get away with less than that. Catalase enzyme doesn't break down egg white. Catalase doesn't break down egg white. Okay. Catalase egg white is not the substrate for catalase the enzyme. So I think that that'll do nicely for the mark. It's only 1 mark, so don't overdo it. Egg white not a substrate for catalase would probably get you the mark. If the investigation was repeated at 70 degrees Celsius, describe the change in the structure of the active site of the enzymes or the rate of reaction in test tubes A and B. Okay. So what happens at 70 degrees C? Well, the enzymes will be denatured. But we can't just say that, because we have to say that we have to say precisely what denaturation does to the structure of the active site of the enzyme. So the structure of the active site of the enzyme will have its shape changed. The shape of the active site will be changed. Okay? So the shape of the active site will be changed. And the rate of reaction in the test tubes A and B, so there will be either much less reaction or 0 reaction, because we probably are denaturing all the enzyme. So the rate of reaction will be 0 or very slow. Okay, so that answer should get you the mark. So there you go. There's question 3. We'll move on to question 4 in another video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.